Hello guys, welcome to Smithage. Today we are going to talk about the White House story, 200 years of history. When you imagine the White House, you probably picture a stately and changing symbol of American power, pure white columns, perfect lawns, timeless elegance. But the truth is far more dramatic. The White House has been burned to a shell, repeatedly gutted to the point of near collapse, and transformed by nearly every president who's lived there. Today, we're telling the complete life story of America's most famous home, from its swampy beginnings to the construction cranes now reshaping its grounds. The story begins in 1791, when President George Washington, the only president who never lived in the White House, personally selected the site along the marshy banks of the Potomac River. Working with city planner Pierre L'Enfant, Washington chose the location for the presidential residence, then launched a public design competition. Irish-born architect James Hoban won the $500 prize with his plan for a Georgian mansion in the Palladian-style, modeled partly on Leinster House in Dublin, which today houses the Irish Parliament. Construction began on October 13, 1792, with a workforce that included local enslaved laborers housed in temporary huts on the north side of the property, alongside skilled stonemasons brought from Edinburgh, Scotland. The walls were built with grey sandstone from Virginia's Aquia Creek quarries, and that stone painted white would eventually give the building its name. It took 8 years to complete. John Adams became the first president to move in on November 1, 1800, writing to his wife Abigail the next night, "I pray heaven bestow the best of blessings on this house and all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof." Those words are now inscribed on the fireplace in the state dining room. But Abigail was less poetic about the reality. The mansion wasn't finished, damp, and so lacking in amenities that she used the great East Room designed for grand receptions as a laundry drying room. Thomas Jefferson, the second resident, opened the house for public tour each morning, a tradition that continues today. He also personally designed landscaping for the grounds and added the first east and west colonnades to hide the stables and service areas. But the most traumatic chapter came in 1814. During the War of 1812, British troops marched on Washington and set the president's house ablaze. The fire was so intense that it gutted the interior and charred the sandstone exterior. Only a thunderstorm saved the walls from complete destruction. Legend holds that First Lady Dolly Madison saved the full-length Gilbert Stuart portrait of George Washington before fleeing. Reconstruction began almost immediately under Hoban's direction, and James Monroe moved into the partially rebuilt mansion in 1817. During Monroe's administration, the iconic South Portico was added in 1824, followed by the North Portico under Andrew Jackson in 1829, giving the White House its familiar colonnaded appearance. Throughout the 19th century, presidents added modern conveniences, a refrigerator in 1845, gas lighting in 1849, and electric lighting in 1891, but the building remained essentially unchanged in structure, even as it witnessed Lincoln's assassination, where grieving staff watched Mary Todd Lincoln retreat into weeks of mourning while White House belongings were looted. The 20th century brought the most dramatic transformations. Theodore Roosevelt, with his 6 rambunctious children who kept exotic pets including raccoons, snakes, and a bear, needed more space. In 1902, he hired renowned architects McKim, Mead, and White to renovate the mansion. They relocated the president's offices from the second floor to a newly constructed temporary building, the West Wing, and formalized the name White House as official. William Howard Taft expanded the West Wing further in 1909 and created the first Oval Office. In 1948, during Harry Truman's presidency, a shocking discovery was made. The White House was structurally unsound, literally in danger of collapse. Engineers found that the building's load-bearing exterior walls and internal wood beams were failing. Truman's solution was radical: gut the entire interior while preserving the original outer walls. From 1948 to 1952, workers dismantled everything inside, constructing a new internal steel frame to support the structure. Truman also added the controversial second-floor balcony on the South Portico, now known as the Truman Balcony, which initially outraged preservationists but has been used by every president since for its spectacular view. When John and Jacqueline Kennedy arrived in 1961, the First Lady was dismayed to find that decades of modernizing had stripped the White House of its historic character. She launched a major restoration, forming a fine arts committee and acquiring authentic period furnishings from donors across America. The result was a $2 million transformation that turned the White House into a museum of American decorative arts. In 1962, Jackie conducted a televised tour of the mansion that captivated 56 million viewers, the first such broadcast from a First Lady. She also redesigned the Rose Garden and restored the historic Resolute Desk, a gift from Queen Victoria to President Rutherford B. Hayes in 1880. Later presidents added their own marks. Franklin Roosevelt had installed an indoor swimming pool for his polio therapy in 1933, which Richard Nixon later covered to create the press briefing room in 1970. Nixon also added a basement bowling alley in 1973. Gerald Ford installed an outdoor pool on the South Grounds in 1975. George W. Bush oversaw major renovations of the Situation Room and James S. Brady Press Briefing Room in 2006-2007. Barack Obama transformed a tennis court into a basketball court in 2009 and added the White House kitchen garden on the South Lawn. Today, the White House complex includes the Central Executive Residence with 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, 412 doors, 147 windows, 28 fireplaces, and 3 elevators across 6 floors. It sits on 18 acres of landscaped grounds, receives up to 30,000 visitors weekly, and requires 570 gallons of white paint to cover its exterior. And it continues to evolve. In September 2025, construction began on a major new addition, a $250 million ballroom, funded by private donations, designed to host up to 650 guests, more than triple the capacity of the historic East Room. The project, slated for completion before the end of Donald Trump's term, will replace the East Wing with a grand, classical structure, mirroring the original architecture. The White House has always been a work in progress. It has survived fire, structural collapse, and countless renovations. It has been home to presidents and their families, witnessed moments of triumph and tragedy, and evolved alongside the nation it represents. From enslaved laborers laying its foundations to modern construction crews, expanding its footprint, from Abigail Adams hanging laundry in the East Room to Jackie Kennedy restoring its elegance, this building has never stopped changing. And that's exactly what makes it not just a symbol, but a living piece of American history.